47% of Americans feel financially free, according to a Bank of America study. That's up from 42% a year ago. But when parsed by gender and race, people feel even less optimistic. I spoke to Lorna Sabia, who is the Bank of America head of retirement and workplace benefits, about this. And here's what she had to say.
The difference between men and women is actually marked. And so 58% of men feel financially well. Only 36% of women feel financially well, 36% and 35% for Black, African American, and Hispanics as well. So I'm always concerned about, yes, the top line is important, but unpacking that and really understanding the demographics of a particular company are equally important.
So how can women and people of color start to feel more financially stable? Here with me is John Hope Bryant, Operation Hope CEO. John, great to have you here in studio with us today.
Honored to be with you.
Absolutely. So let's dive into this. I mean, there were some pretty alarming statistics that really talk about the disparity between gender and ethnic groups feeling different here in their own financial preparedness. What's the first step that many groups can start to take, and where financial literacy gaps can also start to be narrowed as well?
Well, as you know, I wrote a book that's now a bestseller now called Financial Literacy for All. And I think and the biggest group buying that book are African American and people of color, which is quite inspiring. An economics and business book, you know, and I think people want to understand how stuff works now because they understand that we live in a free enterprise democracy. I found it interesting, the report from the young lady from Bank of America, because she did unpack it. And I think she unpacked it because she's a woman. And in 1972, a woman could not get a credit card. Now, she works for Bank of America, but in 1972, she wouldn't have. In 1972, she couldn't get a bank account or a credit card or get a loan without her husband co-signing it. Now, because women were involved in the economy, 25% of the economy are women. Almost $7 trillion a year are women. So if we were backwards on what we call DE&I today, or inclusion, women would not be involved in the economy. We have not brought people of color in the economy. We've not taught them the memo. This was my third book, How Free Enterprise and Capitalism Works. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, people, they're not dumb and they're not stupid. It's what they don't know that they don't know that's killing them, but they think they know. They've confused making money with building wealth. Mm. You make money during the day. That's why we call it making a living. But we build wealth in our sleep. That's stocks, bonds. Only 18% of African Americans, last time I checked, invest in the stock market. 41% of us own a home. The number one way you build wealth in America is home ownership, compared to 75% of our mainstream counterparts. So the data is on the surface of it quite encouraging because financial fluency is increasing. But we have the first generation of people over 65 in our lifetime. Those are white, affluent baby boomers, really looking for retirement.
Right.
The people coming into the economy, 40% of America today are Black and brown. And in 10 years, this country will be a majority of minorities. But are they prepared for the economy? And as you look underneath this data, I need to read the report to tell you what it says, which is that you have these huge gaps. You have these huge lapses between those who are very comfortable, the tale of two cities, really the tale of two worlds, and people who are like, what's that, right? And we got to get people who are what's that into where am I going pretty quickly. Otherwise, in 20 years, we'll be speaking Mandarin, meaning that we won't be the leader of the free world economically, and there's never been a leader of the free world that wasn't the economic leader at the same time.
Sure.
Think France, think Germany, think UK. So we got a lot of work to do in 10 years to bridge the gap in this report. And it's no longer academic or anecdotal. Demographics are destiny.
Sure.
And now hopefully we can address a couple other issues that are sidebar to this in this interview, but this is critical data, and which is why we're in Delta Airlines, by the way, doing all the financial coaching for their employees.
Interesting. And we've spoken with Ed Bastian in the past. He's actually highlighted that as well.
He's a great guy. By the way, so when I first went to Delta, we don't have a problem. We're cool, we have Fidelity, and I said, no, they're helping your pilots and your six-figure income earners invest money. That's not what I'm talking about. Right. The pandemic hit. They had $1 billion of withdrawals, emergency withdrawals on 401k. I get a call from the head of HR saying, when can you start? Like, we're stunned by this. This was the ramp workers and the flight attendants and the people who are living from paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
And now those people are contributing money to their savings account. They're more financially secure. By the way, the airline is booming in profits. So you can do well and do good at the same time.
And so a lot of people right now are trying to figure out, even with an inflationary environment, how they can continue to build wealth, how they can prioritize wealth building as part of a regular practice for themselves. What is the first step that they can take with that regard right now?
Well, first of all, you got to address the thing that's addressing you. If you don't deal with your money's going to deal with you. And it's not going to deal with you in a positive way, because if you have low self-esteem and low confidence, you're going to end up using your credit card for therapy. All right. So first thing we got to do is understand that money's emotional. It's not a math class, and that we live in a free enterprise democracy. And so you got to be obsessed with financial literacy, like you were the right to vote. This is a civil rights issue of this generation. Every week, sit down. And of course, I would encourage you to take my book, sit down with your family once a week at the kitchen table, and unpack the money conversation. The lights don't come on by themselves. Yeah. The car note, the rent, everything going on in our lives. Let's talk about that so we understand where that is. Get your credit score up, because that's the cost of living. That's the cost of literally doing business. If you have an 18% auto loan in a secondary car dealership because your credit score stinks, that's not a Mercedes anymore. It's a Mercedes payments, and it's going to implode on you. Yeah. So if we can get our credit scores up at Operation Hope 54 points in 6 months, debt down $3,800, okay. Savings up $2,000 for somebody making $48,000 a year. That means now I can walk you into the bank branch. We're the only nonprofit allowed to operate out of a bank branch in U.S. history, and get the bank to say yes to you for access to capital when they were going to say no. So the issue that used to be racial, maybe in the 20th century, you're going to be declined because I don't like you. Now the computer at midnight doesn't know what race you are. Right. You get your credit score above 700, which is what we're doing, and the computer just says yes. And by the way, at prime interest rates. So become a homeowner. Don't rent as soon as possible. Get a life insurance policy when you're in good health, in your 20s and 30s. You can get $1 million policy at a few like less than $100 a month, $50 a month if you're in good health. Get the earned income tax credit. If you're watching this, and somebody in your family makes $60,000 or less, the government owes you a check. Yeah. If you make $38,000 and you have 3 children, the government owes you $6,500, right, give or take, and it's retroactive for 3 years if you never filed. So for somebody watching this, they might have fallen off their seat, because that's almost $20,000 of free money, right, that the government owes you as it's not a handout, it's a reward for working, called the Earned Income Tax Credit. Right. So my coaches work with you to get your budget straight. Stop going to Starbucks. I love Starbucks, but
it's a $9 latte.
Get a Keurig machine at home.
Somebody's got to cut that out after amount of time. I got to hustle to my finish here with the amount of time that we have left here, and I want to hit on a few things. Number one, tips for college grads right now. I mean, you think about the number of people that are coming out of school, massive amounts of debt, and they need tips as well as they're entering into the workforce and trying to best game out their financial future, but also their employment future too.
Yeah, I love you answer this question. If you hang around 9 broke people, you'll be the 10th. So watch your circle. Relationship capital is everything. Why am I saying that? All these folks obsessed with staying at home and working at home, because of the pandemic. I want to work from home. No. That's the generation I mentioned, the baby boomers, who are now retiring. They've already got their relationship capital. The boss already knows them. They're chilling at home doing remote work because their credentials are not being questioned. You take your rear end into the office. When everybody's trying to stay at home, you go into the office where nobody's there and walk by the boss's office 10 times a day until the boss says, look, come over here. Who are you? Like, what are you? And whatever assignment they offer you, just say yes. Build relationship capital with the boss, impress them with that job, with that assignment, and the chances of you getting a promotion are very, very high, because we deal with people. This world is about relationship capital more than anything else. So you combine the financial coaching I mentioned through Operation Hope, get your debt down, your savings up, your credit tight, credit scores so that you're financially tight, but also get your aspirations up in ways like the simple things like going into the office, finding that opportunity that nobody else is looking at, and all of a sudden you have now rising aspiration, rising income, and rising net worth, and your stress really goes down in your life.
We got to go. Only 30 seconds left. I mean, major year for elections as well, and we've seen DEI perhaps be the biggest pawn now that's resurfaced once again here. How could that change the broader economic landscape that we see here in the U.S.?
You got to have me come back, because the reality is that dividers can't win. We live in the largest economy in the world, and is a diverse economy. And the only way we're going to continue to be the leader of the free world is if everybody is involved in it, which means that shutting down DE&I programs is actually bad for business, has nothing to do with moral issues. This has to do with the fact you got to prepare people for the economy so they can contribute to it at scale. I wrote something called the Business Plan for America. People watching this can go download it. There's nothing but data. It's all math. And by the time you get to the bottom, you go, wow. I mean, to be blunt, if a black person succeeds there, even the racist wins, because when the economy grows, all boats rise. So the colors are really green now. Yeah. It's not black or white or red or blue. It's green, and so the leader who unites us and who finds a future of economic prosperity for all and repairs the ladder so we don't resent rich people, we want to be them, wins.